Okay, hi everyone. Today's session is going to be on how to analyze UPSC Prelims question papers. Okay, so I have taken a few questions from the UPSC Prelims paper last year, and this is not going to be a test discussion. It's not about discussing what should be the answer. Rather, it is about how you can analyze the questions and zero in on what you have to study for a particular topic or a subject, right? So this is one exercise that you have to do on your own, and you should analyze UPSC previous year questions at least from the year 2018 very thoroughly, and I will explain you how to go about it. So the first question is rapid financing instrument and rapid credit facility are related to the provisions of lending by which one of the following? So there are four international organizations mentioned: Asian Development Bank, International Monetary Fund, United Nations Environment Program Finance Initiative, and World Bank. So the first thing that you should do is whenever you come across any question is that you map the question to the source, right? So here I have written current affairs, but what you should essentially do is if you are reading the Hindu, to go and find out in on which dates or during which months these two things were appearing in the newspaper, or where does it appear in your current affairs magazine, right? That gives you more confidence on the sources that you are using, and that also tells you that okay, you have to read the newspaper like a book. It is a book that you have to revise. This is a factual economy question, right? So you should also understand from this question that any financial products which are regularly in news of any international organizations, or let's say of Central Bank of India or SEBI or Ministry of Finance, right? So whatever financial product is there can be asked. So whenever you are reading your current affairs, keep an eye out on such things, right? And these are very generalized terms: rapid financing instrument, rapid credit facility. Unless you have read, by paying attention while doing your current affairs, you will not be able to answer this question. So this is not a factual, this is not a guesswork related question. It's fact based, and either you know it or you don't know it, right? Moving on to the next question. Okay, so now this question is, it has three statements. So the questions in UPSC will have three statements, and they could be conceptual, right? So here you have, with reference to the Indian economy, consider the following statements. The first statement is an increase in nominal effective exchange rate indicates the appreciation of rupee. Second is an increase in the real effective exchange rate indicates an improvement in trade competitiveness. The third one is an increasing trend in domestic inflation relative to inflation in other countries is likely to cause an increasing divergence between NEER and REER, right? So which of the above statements are correct? Now here, essentially the question is testing your understanding between what is nominal effective exchange rate and what is real effective exchange rate. It is trying to ensure that you know the exact concept. So the other type of questions that can come in the economy section is conceptual understanding based questions, right? Now this is your static question. So here, if you have read your static source properly, you should be able to answer it. And these are questions which are easy, and you should not, miss out on these questions. You should know the basics thoroughly. Do your static portion very properly. And the other thing that you can analyze from this is UPSC asks the trend in different things, right? So here it is saying what will happen if there is an increase, what will happen if there is a decrease. So whenever you are reading any concept, whether it's economy, environment, geography also, so sometimes they will ask what will happen if pressure increases or temperature decreases, right? So keep thinking on these lines. keep noticing the trends that are appearing, right? Next question. Question 3. Again, this is related to current affairs. With reference to foreign-owned e-commerce firms operating in India, which of the following statements is or are correct? Here you have two statements. They can sell their own goods in addition to offering their platforms as marketplaces. And the second one is the degree to which they can own big sellers on their platforms is limited, right? And you have to select the correct answer using the codes given below. So this was in news for quite some time in during the year, right? So this is a current affairs related question, and what you have to do is you have to keep an eye out. So whenever there is some policy related thing which is happening, like for instance in e-commerce the policy was being changed, right? And there's a reason why this was happening. So you should know what has changed and what was the position earlier, right? Again, this is a factual type of question. Either you know it, you can't guess this thing unless you know about the entire issue. If you know about the issue, about the reason why this step was taken, then probably you can guess in this question, but not without knowing the background, right? Next question. Which of the following activities constitute real sector in the economy? So there are four things here. The first one is farmers harvesting their crops, textile mills converting raw cotton into fabrics, a commercial bank lending money to a trading company, a corporate body issuing rupee denominated bonds overseas. And you have to select the correct answer. Now again, this is a static related question. This is a very simple question. If your concept is clear, you will be able to answer this, right? But then only if you know the definition of real sector, right? You have to, then you will be able to answer this. You just have to apply the definition, right? So whatever concepts that you are reading, you should know how to apply it. And just think about the concept that you are reading. Ensure that you have understood its meaning. Simplify the concept for yourself, right? Next question. Okay, so consider the following statements. Now there are four statements. So because of such questions in which you have 3 to 4 statements, the time management in the UPSC becomes a problem in the prelims exam. So ensure that in the first go itself, you are reading with full concentration. Otherwise, if you read this question twice or thrice, then it leads to a wastage of time, right? So you have four statements. The first is pursuant to the report of H.N. Sanyal Committee, the Contempt of Courts Act 1971 was passed. Second, the Constitution of India empowers the Supreme Court and the High Courts to punish for contempt of themselves. Third, the Constitution of India defines civil contempt and criminal contempt. And fourth, in India, the Parliament is vested with the powers to make laws on contempt of court, right? So here, contempt of court was in news for quite some time, and that is why the source is current oriented static. So the topic was in news, but the static portion will give you the details and will help you in solving this question. So if you read properly your polity book, you will be able to figure out that there is no definition of civil contempt and criminal contempt in the constitution, right? And you can eliminate that option and zero in on the answer even if you don't know the other options, right? So that is why whatever facts you know, you have to ensure that you use that to figure out the answer to the question. Okay, moving on to the next question. Okay, consider the following statements. A bill amending the constitution requires a prior recommendation of the President of India. Second, when a constitution amendment bill is presented to the President of India, it is obligatory for the President of India to give his or her assent. And third, a constitution amendment bill must be passed by both the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha by a special majority, and there is no provision for joint sitting. So again, this is a static question. Easy question. This is something that you should not get wrong. If you want to clear the prelims, you have to ensure that whatever comes from the static portion, and is easy and attemptable, you do not mess up those questions, right? So, uh, if you know that there's no prior recommendation of the President of India that is required, you can easily eliminate that option and come to the correct answer. This is a factual question. And so as an example, you can see that UPSC requires you to remember the facts. And that is why revision is extremely, extremely important. And you should revise at least 5 to 6 times the portion so that you can answer these questions properly, right? Next question. Consider the following statements. The Constitution of India classifies the ministers into four ranks, namely Cabinet Minister, Minister of State with independent charge, Minister of State, and Deputy Minister. And the second statement is the total number of ministers in the Union government, including the Prime Minister, shall not exceed 15% of the total number of members in the Lok Sabha. Again, a very factual question. Subject is polity, right? So your polity book has the answer to this question. So I have put this question just to show that you cannot afford to miss these questions, which are easy and which have direct answers in the books. You would not have come across any categorization of ministers in the Constitution of India. But if you read the chapter on Parliament properly, you will know that total number of ministers in the union government, including Prime Minister, cannot exceed 15%, right? So this is again an easy question. This is a low-hanging fruit, right? Okay, now next question is, with reference to Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission, consider the following statements. Again, a three-statement question. The first statement is, private and public hospitals must adopt it. Second, as it aims to achieve universal health coverage, every citizen of India should be part of it ultimately. And third, it has seamless portability across the country. So now this is based on government schemes or government initiatives. It is current affairs based question. But even if the scheme appears in the newspaper, it might not have all the details, all the features of the scheme. The article might not have that. And that is why for government schemes, it is important that you just go through either any good compilation, which is like Sunya will provide you a good compilation of it, or you just look at the government scheme website online and try to remember the features of it, right? This is a factual question and it figures out in the UPSC papers quite frequently. Next slide. Okay, among the following crops, which one is the most important anthropogenic source of both methane and nitrous oxide? So this is an agricultural and environment based question. It is a static question and it is factual. So either you know the answer to this or you don't know the answer to this. If you follow the newspapers properly, you will know the discussion going on about global warming and anthropogenic emissions, right? And you will be able to answer this question. So you just have to keep an eye out because in environment and agriculture, they ask very factual things sometimes. And at a glance, this question will look like a very generic question. But unless you know the exact fact, you will not be able to answer it properly, right? Next question. System of rice intensification of cultivation in which alternate wetting and drying of rice fields is practiced results in reduced seed requirement, reduced methane production, reduced electricity consumption. Now you have to select the correct answer using the codes given below. Again, it is an agriculture and environment related question. So here you can see that a method of cultivation is being asked and what is its effect. So when you are reading your environmental portion, you should ensure that you know what is the cause of something, what is the effect of something, what is the trend that is happening, whether the temperature due to global warming is increasing, how much has it increased, what is the threshold, what is the target that we are aiming for, right? All these things, whenever you come across the UPSC previous year questions, just try to see the type of question or the aspect that UPSC is trying to ask you and read that portion accordingly. It is a static based question, and so you should not miss this question. This question at least you should get correct, right? Next question. Okay, So, Gandekota Canyon of South India was created by which one of the following rivers? Now, this was in the current affairs. It is a mapping question, but it is related to a government initiative that the government of Andhra Pradesh had taken. This is also known as the Grand Canyon of India, right? So the government was trying to promote this Gandikota Canyon, right? So whenever you come across, if you had come across this name in the newspaper, you should immediately go and Google it and find out whatever is the geographical aspect of it. Like here, UPSC has asked that which river is flowing through this canyon, right? So this is how you should target your mapping portion. Whenever there is a feature or a location or a place, whatever is mentioned in the newspaper, you should immediately Google it and read one or two lines from Wikipedia about it so that you remember it. For example, now G20 is going to be happening in Khajuraho, right? So that can be a culture related question. It can also be a geography related mapping question. That can also come. Which temple is where, right? So keep an eye out for such facts. So far, I have shown you that most of the questions are factual in nature. This shows it UPSC has started emphasizing a lot on knowing the facts, on remembering the facts. So accordingly, you should orient your preparation. Next question. Again, this is a mapping question, but this is a static mapping question. So you have considered the following pairs. Namcha Bharwa, Garhwal Himalaya, Nanda Devi Kumaon Himalaya, Nokrek, Sikkim Himalaya. Right? So here only if you know which peak is in which mountain, then you will be able to answer this. So unless even if you know one of these, then you can make an informed guess, right? But here again, it is a mapping question. Mapping knowledge does not get built in a day. So you can refer to the Sunya mapping notes and keep on giving 15-20 minutes to mapping each day so that you can remember the locations or the features of different places, right? Next question. The term Levant, often heard in the news, roughly corresponds to which of the following regions? So you have four options. Now again, this is a current affairs oriented mapping question. So this term will appear in the newspaper. You will read it in the context of international relations, right? You will know which countries are involved in this particular issue, but only if you Google the term properly and try to find out that which is the exact region that this term is referring to, will you be able to answer this question? So this is how, if you come across any such thing, any such term, you should immediately Google it and try to remember the mapping portion of it then and there, right? Next question. In the northern hemisphere, the longest day of the year normally occurs in the first half of the month of June, second half of the month of June, first half of the month of July, or second half of the month of July. Static question, easy question. So this question I have only put here to show you that there are easy questions in the exam which you should definitely not mess up, right? This is a very easy question. If you are preparing seriously for the UPSC exam, you should know the answer to this question. It is related to geography. It is a factual question, and there are lots of questions in the prelims paper which you can easily clear if you know your basics properly, right? Next question. Consider the following. There are four things mentioned, which are Arogya Setu, Cowin, DigiLocker, and Diksha. Which of the above are built on top of open source digital platforms? Now, the subject is government initiative and the theme is information technology. So, in government initiatives, people keep discussing that the government has, started initiatives like Digital India and Ayushman Bharat, Digital Health Mission, this, that. And you will all remember the schemes, you will try to remember the features, but you will miss out on the how it is being done portion, right? So whenever there are articles discussing these things, be curious about how it is being operationalized, how it is being implemented, and try to read on those lines, right? Next question. Shruti, can we move to the next one? Okay. So with reference to Web 3.0, consider the following statements. There are three statements. The first one is Web 3.0 technology enables people to control their own data. Second, in Web 3.0 world, there can be blockchain-based social networks. And third, Web 3.0 is operated by users collectively rather than a corporation. Which of the statements given up above are correct? So again, this is a science and technology based question. So science and technology questions will have certain themes. It can be related to, if you keep reading the newspapers, you can identify the themes. It can be health, it can be defense, it can be information technology, it can be biotechnology, it can be nuclear arms technology, it can be space technology, right? So in all these themes, just keep an eye out for facts, for new innovations, new features, right? So if you are able to, understand how it is being done, what is the exact technology, how it is going to benefit you, what are the applications and what are the limitations, then you will be able to answer science and tech questions quite easily, right? Next question. Which of the following statements that best reflects the idea behind a fractional orbital bombardment system often talked about in media? Again, this is a science and tech based defense related question, right? It tests your basic understanding. So this term would have appeared in the newspaper, but you should know what exactly is the idea behind it, what exactly is happening, what is the definition of this, so the four options are: a hypersonic missile is launched into space to counter the asteroid approaching the earth and explode it in space. Second is a spacecraft lands on another planet after making several orbital motions. Third is a missile is put into a stable orbit around the earth and deorbits over a target on the earth, right? And the last one is a spacecraft moves along a comet with the same speed and places a probe on its surface. So if you simply look up this particular term, fractional orbital bombardment system, or if you just pay attention to what is there in your current affairs, this is an easy win in the question, right? Moving on to the next question. Okay, so COVID-19 pandemic has been a big topic in, it has been in news since 2020, right? And vaccines are generally discussed in the newspapers. So this was an expected question, right? In the context of vaccines manufactured to prevent COVID-19 pandemic, consider the following statements. One, the Serum Institute of India produced COVID-19 vaccine named Covishield using mRNA platform. Second, Sputnik 5 vaccine is manufactured using vector-based platform. Third, Covaxin is an inactivated pathogen-based vaccine, right? So which of the above statements are correct? This is a very easy question. It is current affairs oriented. And as you would know, if you have been following the newspapers, there are problems with mRNA-based vaccines. And so the first thing out of curiosity that you should check is whether the vaccine that you have taken is, Covaxin, Sputnik V, or whether it's based on mRNA platform. And if you do that, you will know which of the vaccines were based on this platform, and you'll be able to easily eliminate the options, right? It is a health related question. This theme appears more or less every year. Health related, defense related questions will be there every year because these are important areas which the government focuses on, right? Moving on to the next question. Okay, so just give me 1 second. Yes. If a major solar storm or solar flare reaches the Earth, which of the following are the possible effects on the Earth? Now, there are 7 things here which I mentioned. The first one is GPS and navigation systems could fail. Second, tsunamis could occur at equatorial regions. Third, power grids could be damaged. Fourth, intense auroras could occur over much of the Earth. Fifth, forest fires could take place over much of the planet. Sixth, orbits of the satellites could be disturbed. And seventh, shortwave radio communication of the aircraft flying over polar regions could be interrupted. Now, again, you have to select the correct answer, right? So the source is static because you will know what solar flare is only when you read the particular concept or topic, right? The subject, it can be either science and technology or geography. I have written science and technology here. But how will you answer this question? So that depends on your understanding of solar flare or solar storm. If you know that it affects the magnetic field, then you will be able to filter out the options such as tsunamis could occur, right? So essentially this just tests your awareness of what a solar flare is, right? Again, this is an easy question, and if you know the concept, you should be able to answer it. Next slide. Okay, so again, so the last question, this question is something that I call imagination or understanding based questions, where you just keep thinking about what you have read, the concept or the innovation that you have come across. So here it is: if rainforests and tropical forests are the lungs of the earth, then surely wetlands function as its kidneys. Which one of the following functions of wetlands best reflects the above statement? So in this question, the answer is in the question itself. It is showing, it is telling you that wetlands are kidneys. So now you just have to choose what is the function of kidney. It just filters out waste, right? So here the answer is aquatic plants absorb heavy metals and excess nutrients. So this is something that this is a question where you can use your logical aptitude and your guessing abilities also, right? Again, this was a geography and environment mixed question, and it tests your basic understanding. Again, it is a static related question. So this is how you should analyze your previous year papers. First is you map the question to the source that you are using. That increases your confidence in the sources that you are studying. Second is, what is the subject and the type of questions that UPSC is trying to ask you. In economy, it is trying to ask you facts, trends. It is also trying to ask you, um, you know, current affairs items, what is happening if a particular policy is being changed, right? In geography and environment, it is asking you facts. It is also asking you concepts. It is asking you to apply the concepts. In polity, it is asking you current oriented static, right? So similarly, you should go about analyzing the last 4 to 5 years of prelims papers so that you get a hang of what to read from your sources.